Hey guys, so it's me, and I know you recognize Brittany. We're here to do an introduction for our third part of our Assigning Values video. It's the last one. I know you're super sad. Ha ha ha. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and comment in this video. Jacob leads us how to kind of appropriately end the activity, and you will see all about how we did it wrong, because that's what we do best, right? And so
I don't think it's wrong. It's always a learning lesson.
right, learning is good. Yeah, there's also an epic rendition of RESP-CT, so definitely stick around for that, for the blooper reel. And we have a special announcement. Can I tell them?
I'm assuming yes.
Okay, because she doesn't know because I didn't tell her. So Brittany
we may
and
be
I,
editing this.
we're not editing this because I don't have time. Brittany and I are going to be starting our own podcast called Conversations. So look for that wherever you subscribe to podcasts. It's going to be coming soon. We're going to be talking about some controversial stuff that has made us maybe not so popular, right?
Or
Yeah.
more popular.
Or more
depending on who you
popular.
are.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. And remember, follow your motherfucking heart.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards.
We're gonna take away all of these that are not important.
All right. We're killing them all. We're killing them all.
And actually, I think I'll even take away the somewhat importance to me because I have plenty in the most important.
Oh,
very
I see what you're doing.
important,
I see what you're doing. You're just like, yeah, you're just gonna move things over because they
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So now I have 2, 4,
17.
6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. So 17 times 3.
I didn't do it that far yet. I just counted.
What's 16 times 3?
I don't know, but 17
We can edit
times.
this out, right? Or bad math.
I don't know, but 17
Math
times
is math
2
is math.
is 34, and
Yes,
then
we can add it.
so it's
we can
probably
add
like
all this
51 or something.
There's 51 of them, yeah.
And how
well,
many
see,
do we
I
end
did
up
that in my
with?
head.
How many are we supposed to end up with?
Take that, Paul
Should be
Youngberg.
40,
40. All right.
right? So
No, well, totally 50, because there's still 10 not important to me. So it's important to have.
so
that.
50. So there's one card too many here. So
Okay, we actually did really
I
well.
apparently also still can't math because I thought there was 4 categories.
You might have to use some of these because some of these might legitimately be not important to you. Some of these might not make the cut of important enough, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not.
Well, we're not going through these again because I want tater tots, so you can make this go away.
Well, I was just gonna take the ones that are here and just move them around.
Well,
Yeah,
you
right.
can do that. Sure.
Right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
so like then I guess when I'm breaking it down, and I think of like the big scheme of things here, like what are the things that are not important to me that I thought were
So
most
he's
important,
saying
very
yes,
important,
but
or
he's
important
not
to
on
me.
board with this because he's
He
going
doesn't
back
like
to the
it.
cards. He
He
does
doesn't
not
like
like
it.
it. I
He
can
doesn't
tell.
like my version of
You
this.
can do whatever you want to do, and all of it, any of it. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but on my business card, who cares about business cards anyway? But on my business card, there's a circle, and that circle I took from when I studied Aikido, and the circle represents endless techniques,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so there are many rights. I don't, there's not just one, just like there's not truth with a capital T that we have access to as mortals, right? So, you can do whatever you want.
I just don't have to like it.
Well, not only that, but I mean, you can do whatever you like.
Mhm.
It's just that some of the things legitimately in here, I think, are legitimately not important to you, rather than less important. But really, the key stuff is going to be that
This is going to be in a lecture in your next therapy session. You realize that?
nobody gets
I
lectured.
started tuning
in
him
here.
out a while ago.
Oh no.
No, nobody gets lectured in here. At home, it's not particularly helpful either. I found, my wife told me I stop listening when you go into lecture mode.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when I go into lecture mode, what I most want is to be heard.
Right.
Well, I don't think you're hearing me, so now I'm going to lecture, and then that's actually the thing that prevents my wife from listening at
Right.
all.
That's her off switch.
So
I
it's
think it's
important.
most people's off switch actually.
Yeah. It's a simple thing to see in others, right? But then, we all have our blind spots. Well, you know, this is kind of a funny thing because before Brittany got here, we were talking about how it's one thing to know what you're not going to do,
Right.
but it's a whole nother thing to know what then you're going to do.
Right.
And it is somewhat helpful to know what you're not going to do, but
Mm-hmm.
really figuring out what it is.
Right.
I mean, because that's a lot of us start that with rebellion too, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like, well, I don't know who I want to be, but I don't want to be my parents,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But then what?
But then what,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what do we do?
No, not what. Then who?
Who
Who?
or
Who?
whom?
Who?
This case may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny. Who do I want to be then? Who do I want to
Mhm.
be?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of we do a lot of rebellion, and I think we rebel. I mean, against ourselves, against society, multiple times throughout our life, right? And then we
Absolutely.
get to a point where we go, oh well, I'm just caught up in this rat race. I'm just caught up in this. And I believe if it's going to be a circle, right? Like we're talking about the Buddhist concept of the wheel of birth and death, where you're just grinding it out
Mhm.
so that you can give a better life to your children, so that they can do the same thing, give better life to their children, and on and on and on and on and on, right? Samsara, I think, is what it's called. And this is a way to, rather than get on that
Mhm.
hamster wheel,
Mhm.
right? This is a way to get into the other circle that I really love is the circle that represents Daniel's techniques and boundlessness,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
of the sky and of the moon. And, not that we have to get all, you know, in here, but sometimes we do.
Well, I think what you're talking about with the rebellion, like sometimes we rebel against ourselves, or we will rebel against our bosses or our friends or anything. You know, that just leads me to think like we're doing something that is in direct conflict with our actual values. And so then we feel like we have to go to like extremes to rebel in some other ways. Whereas if just we were just who we are in our lives and living our authentic lives and living an inspired life, we wouldn't feel the need to have to rebel against people because it wouldn't matter. You know,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they want me to be. I'm just gonna do my way.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a reaction,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right.
It's just an existence.
right? And I think one of the disappointing things that I noticed when Brittany was looking through these, they used the word discipline in here somewhere, and it was very, it was very,
It's over here, I think.
I think it was this one, self-control. This is a very disappointing use of discipline for me, because it says to be disciplined in my own actions. And I guess that's just what I put into it, but disciplined, this sounds like, you know, oh, I'm not going to don't do this, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that interpretation of discipline, because discipline, disciple, all of that comes from learning. And so I guess if we sort of rebrand that, right, this action right here is like what Alan Watts would refer to as, rather than discipline as, you know, I'm not going to do this or you can't do that. It's more of a skill, right? I'm getting an insight. I am building, you know, skills, so that my rebellion isn't just a reaction, like a knee-jerk reaction to, I don't like that. Well, fine, you don't like that, but what do you like? What are you about? Who do you want to be? And so this is the kind of thing, this little personal values exercise, this is the kind of thing that gets us the learning part of the discipline.
I've always hated the word discipline or punishment. You know, I'm thinking about my mom and how do we talk to our kids, and you know my ex-husband was like, well, there has to be discipline, there has to be punishment. And for me, it's like, no, there's lessons. Like, I'm more comfortable with the word consequences, but I still don't even really like that word. But, you know, there has to be lessons, but not necessarily a discipline or a punishment, because I don't think that that's very productive, because then we're focused on, or the child will be focused on, what is this external thing that's being done to me, rather than this internal thing that I need to learn. So, yeah, I have a very emotional reaction to the words discipline and punishment.
See, and you know what's funny about that is, as a fellow lover of words, my wife says that about me all the time. You really love words.
Ooh, yeah.
I had a friend once that said,
Do you love words? Is there a better word for love?
I am.
You have amorous affection.
Well, that's how she describes it. But I had a friend once that said that you try to work every word you know into every single conversation you have.
Wordy.
Like, wow, that's a lot. But as a lover of words, what we can do is we can really look back. I mean, connotation being as it is in any given point in history, right? But where these words actually come from is not exactly how we use them. Compassion. I mean, to feel and act on concern for others. Is that really what compassion means? Or does compassion mean experiencing something with and through someone? Because that's what would be co-passion, right? Or like discipline. Is discipline the same as punishment? No, it never intended to be. Like, discipline is a skill or an area of learning, or something that we work on, a discipline, right? Not to discipline others unless we're saying teach, because it's all about disciple, right? It's all about right? And so we equate these words, we conflate their meanings, and then we go, oh, I don't really like that. But really, it's kind of like sayings too, like one of the things I learned when I was studying Shakespeare is the phrase, you can't have your cake and eat it too, always bothered me, because I'm like, how else are you going to eat your cake if you don't have it?
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah, that's the one. Okay. So really, you know what that saying used to be is, you can't eat your cake and have it too.
Oh.
Which makes
perfect
total
sense. Yes.
Right? Doesn't that make perfect sense?
Yes.
You can't eat your cake and have it too. So if you spend money,
Yeah.
frivolously, you're not going to have any. It's very. That makes sense, right? So I don't know, somewhere around 450 years ago or so, somebody, or 300, I don't know, somebody started getting it wrong and spreading it wrong, and we've had it sort of wrong ever since.
But we just keep saying it.
We just keep saying it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I beg to differ. Right? So, sometimes we have to take these things back, right? Like compassion, right? Like discipline. This is a discipline, right? Building a skill. And when we do this, what would just be a sort of reactive rebellion can actually be an opportunity to be a much more authentic, much more genuine version of ourselves that isn't a reaction to somebody else's stuff, but a manifestation of who we really are.
So Brittany, what? You've done this exercise. What do you feel like you learned from this, or is there anything surprising? Because you knew you were going to do this exercise before you came in. Is there anything that surprised you, or that you have gained from this?
Well, I think because when I had to narrow some of these down to put only 10 into the categories, I think it surprised me that I had an emotional response to the card monogamy, and I ended up actually completely taking it out of the whole thing.
It's true. It's gone.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the reason being
it's
because I felt like that it was redundant to some of the other things that kind of consisted of that. So to me, definitely still in my most important was faithfulness, which was to be loyal and true in relationships. And I think that I put that instead of monogamy because I think that no matter what my life looks like in the future, I would want to make sure that I'm being loyal and true to the relationship that I have, whatever that looks like at that time. So though that I want a monogamous relationship, I think that that's probably what I'm going to want for the rest of my life. But should it ever change, I would want to make sure that it's more important to be loyal and true to the relationship that I'm in, whether it be a friendship or a romantic relationship, whatever that looks like.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, because you can be faithful in a polyamorous
absolutely
relationship.
Right.
You know?
Though I don't, still once I've
Right.
done, I do not believe that that's right for me.
Right.
So in my most important to me category, I started with loving, then genuineness, then spirituality, then self-acceptance, which I realized that I had the card self-acceptance, then I also had the card acceptance, and then I was analyzing the card acceptance, forgetting that I already had self-acceptance there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
I
you do kind of have to like
took that
look
card
at
out.
the cards
I took the
and
acceptance
compare
card
them.
out because I care less about being accepted and more about accepting myself. So self-acceptance was the important one. And then I have family, and then I have friendship, and then I have romance, and then I have safety, to be safe and secure. And then I have self-determination and faithfulness. So these are my most important values to me. And then in the next step, my very important to me values, which I also put in order, were stability, hope, comfort, connection, health, physical, honesty, humor, attractiveness, fun, and forgiveness. So those were my top two ones there. And I can go through important and somewhat important, but I think what is more interesting to me, what was more interesting was finding what was not important to me and trying to find cards that really kind of triggered that response of this is not important to me, because though something could have been that, most of these cards could have ended up in somewhat important to me, but finding something that was not important to me was difficult. So fame is not important to me, power not important to me, authority is not important to me, service is not important to me, challenge is not important to me, excitement was kind of a hard one. I wanted to put 10 into each one, so it was difficult to add ones over here sometimes, but because I do like excitement, but it's not important that my life is so full of excitement. Risk, purpose, moderation, and simplicity. So these were all things that I felt like were not important to me when I looked at all of the cards. Though realistically, I could probably put every single card here in the somewhat important to me category and be perfectly fine with that as an answer.
Yeah, because I think so, Jacob. Like when if people came to me like, well, why do I even have to go past very important or even past important to me? Like it seems like it shouldn't matter, but I do think that there is an importance in knowing what's not important.
Well, absolutely. Not only is it important to have the most important, very important, important, all that, but this juxtaposition, right? Especially if you're going to come in and we're going to do some form of what we call a valued living questionnaire, right? Which is essentially, are you living in accordance with your values? Okay, now that we've determined them and put them in hierarchy, are you, in fact, and how are you living in accordance with your values, right? Well, if you say loving, genuineness, spirituality are top three most importance, right? But you're tending to things that are over here.
Yeah.
In your weekly life, like I might ask, like, well, Brittany, like, you know, in the last week, you know, how did you fulfill your value of loving? What did you do in this last week, right? And you would say, well, you know, I really didn't have time because I was, you know, I was
being of service to others.
That was exactly the card I went to, and I was like, I know where he's going, and I know exactly where she was spending her
because
time.
I would say that to me, I think in my personal life that I confuse the two. That I confuse
loving
that
service.
being of service to another person as loving them.
You know,
or loving them as being of service to them.
That what that brings up for me is the idea, you know, we've talked about it, the kintsugi or the kintsukuri, the broken pottery that's put back together with gold, right? And the kind of cool thing's not probably like the most luxurious example of it, but it's really cool. And
oh, is that it?
A good friend of mine got this for me in Japan. A good friend and part of my cohort. Her name's Danielle Albright. Thank you, Danielle.
Please like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe, right? If you can be friends with me, you can definitely like and subscribe because it's way easier. So this is a little container, right? And the thing I love about this piece is, well, it's beautiful aesthetically, but most people would think the value is in the fact that you can put something in it, right? And before it's broken and repaired with gold, which you may or may not be able to see there, that's all the value that it really has, is in its utility, right? But then look, it's been decorated, so it makes it a little more beautiful. But really, the value is what you can put in it, or what it can do for you, right? But see, now it's been broken, it's been repaired with gold, and so now it's more. It has a value that goes beyond its simple utility, right? We've now elevated a simple vessel into art, and so service, some people could think, would be the ultimate expression of many belief systems, right? But if we confuse it with utility, then how much of my worth, well, if I can't be of service today, right? How much of my worth is invested in how I can be of service, what utility I have, right? So I don't want so much for that to be the only thing. I want there to be a value that's beyond what I can do for others, how I can be of service, or what my utility is. And I love it too because you have to open it up to see it.
Yeah, it was one of the things we talked about before when we were talking about this. I hadn't seen it yet though, but we were saying like how it just looks perfect. It looks like it's just a container, right? Maybe like our outsides look great, but then when you open it, you see that it's broken inside. And I think that for a lot of us, we realize that we too are broken inside, but that just because we're broken doesn't mean we're not beautiful.
And you can't fill that space with something beautiful until you've, number one, been broken, and number two,
Counting.
It's really hard. But number two, lost something, right? Because you can't fill something unless something's gone, right? Otherwise the container would be bigger. You can't just break it and then put everything back together and then add gold. Like there's pieces here of the original pot that are gone. So you can't fill it with something unless you've experienced loss. I love it.
And it's in the repair of it, right? It's in the growth that makes it beautiful, and we don't hide it. We don't try to refinish it to where you can't see that it's been broken, right? We embellish the wound. We embellish the break, and then we celebrate it, and it makes us more attractive.
Actually, the broken part is put back together with something far more valuable than what it was before.
Yeah, that's the gold.
So the value was in being broken and putting back together.
Well, on that note, I really think we should end because I don't think we can top that. That's beautiful. So, Jacob, if someone wanted to do this exercise, are they able to do it on their own, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, you could Google it. You can Google anything, right? But I mean, I'm sure you could find it and do it on your own. But kind of like what we were talking about before, about the idea of having the discipline, having the skill. What's likely going to be most helpful for people is to do some work before this, right? Some work on themselves, however they choose to do that, right? With someone else, and with someone else, because we can't see our own blind spots, it doesn't matter. I mean, anyone can go out and get an education in, psychology, sociology, therapy, all that kind of stuff. Anybody can do that. I can't be my own therapist. I can't see my blind spots, and I need someone else on the other side of me, right? So this is part of a journey, and like any journey, we need companions, and we need different kinds of companions at different times, and so I think what's going to be most helpful for something like this is to have it be part of larger work. And if that larger work is therapy, awesome. If that larger work is, I don't know, martial arts, if it's, any number of things, any number of disciplines, in the proper use of the term discipline, right? Not in like the discipline, right? But I mean, if this can be helpful to any number of people with any number of questions, because it's a hierarchy of their values, it can lead them to living a value value-driven life.
I'm calling it my inspired life.
Your inspired life. I love it. I love it. And see, and really that's kind of the difference, right? Because one thing that Wayne Dyer said that I really love is he said you can be plugged into two different worlds. You can be plugged into the world of information, which is, informed by the forms, right? In sort of Platonic kind of way, right? But he said, really what we want to be plugged into is the world of inspiration, right? And the world of information, that has all the data and whatever, and that's great. But I'm maybe because for the first time in my life over the last 7 or 8 years, I've realized that it's not so much about what I know, but what the context is, right? And so rather than trying to build more knowledge, I want to build more insight so that I can have more inspiration, right? And so you could look this up and you could read all the stuff, and that might fulfill the information part of it, but it's not necessarily going to bring the inspiration. Okay?
I love it. All right, I guess we're done.
That was our very first interview video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good tips. We'll be back again for another interview in about a month. I'm really excited about that one too. I talked to some amazing model friends of mine, and we were part of a body diversity shoot, so we've got some behind the scenes shots from that as well. Until next time, this episode was written and hosted by me, Jessica Taylor. It was edited and produced by the amazing John Hernandez. And special thanks to Natalie K. Davis of Socially Natalie K. Bye, guys. Oh, no, I came up with a new ending for my videos, you guys. I'm so excited. I can't believe I almost forgot. I know you guys like the finger guns. I understand. However, I had something happen this week that just really empowered me and just excited me, and I ended up saying, just follow your motherfucking heart. And that just seems so authentic to me, and I've been searching for a way to end these videos for so long, and it's been so awkward because nothing has just felt right. But cussing just feels really natural to me, so that's how I'm ending my videos from now on. If you don't like cussing, I'm really not sorry. So this is me telling you, reminding you, ordering you to follow your motherfucking heart.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. You stopped.
I left her. I think that's really, when I think about what makes the world go around, it's love.
I was looking for my almonds. I thought maybe I would.
I don't want almonds. I want tater tots.
Okay,
Why is this so
start over.
hard to? Why is it so hard to get through his head? It's not about being hungry.
She just wants tater tots.
I literally just want tater tots.
I have cashews.
All right, we'll start over so we can edit all that out.
I want tater tots, Jacob. Cashews are not tater tots.
I have dark chocolate covered acai